Welcome to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
And I'm Chris Clements.
Woo!
We are day 19 of Vice President Harris not taking one single question from the press.
Well, no, day 19 of her ascending to the
throne of presidential politics.
Yeah, so she became the candidate for president. She's now the officially nominee, but she became the candidate 19 days ago. She's actually not done a sit down with the press since June 24th.
No, and I don't think she will.
Do you really?
No, I really don't think she will. I think she'll probably do a bunch of one-off celebrity interviews that are very friendly and very, very, framed the right way to show her in the right light. And she might do something on MSNBC where they'll, not ask her one hard-hitting question. But I think the strategy going forward, I've heard a couple perspectives on this morning and last night and read a couple things, is correct. She is going to mirror, in one way, shape, or form, the basement strategy of Joe Biden by principally doing some rallies with lovely, full-fledged teleprompters, but she will not answer a single press question.
So she won't even do what Biden did, which was take some pretty tough interviews from
She's not
George
going
Stephanopoulos and Lester Holt.
No, she's not going to. I think unless the polling right now she's getting a ramp up in the polls out of personality, not policy. And I think the Democrats, including the people who are running her campaign, which are all former Obama people, which leads me to another question that I posed to you earlier today. Are we being punked by the Obamas? I mean, let's recall the Obamas left Washington, D.C., but they didn't leave Washington, D.C. They moved 2 miles away from the White House when Trump became president. And ever since that time, they've been, I think, basically calling the shots for the Democratic Party. And I do believe they've been calling the shots in the White House ever since Biden was elected. And I do believe now that Kamala, the chameleon, has been sitting in the background as an emissary from said Obama and calling the shots. This has been all orchestrated. Anybody who thinks otherwise, I think, is not reading the tea leaves.
So we already know that there's been not great blood between Obama and Biden.
Exactly. Yes.
We know that Michelle Obama was very close friends to Hunter Biden's ex-wife.
Yes.
So little issue there. Obama has.
You mean his widow?
Yeah.
No. Hunter Biden's ex-wife.
Hunter Biden's
ex-wife. And I'm thinking of Beau Biden's widow, who then went on to date Hunter Biden. It's so hard to keep the Hunter Biden drama in focus.
So
and of course Kamala's ascendancy takes the Biden drama, family drama, off.
Right, and but my
point
point is just establishing where the Bidens and the Obamas are, which is not in a great place. Obama clearly picked Hillary to be his successor rather than Biden, and Biden was bitter about that. And so you're saying that Obama has kept himself infiltrated into the Biden administration through Kamala.
Yes. The best-looking attorney general in the nation, as he so famously said back in the day, which Michelle then was like, what? It actually had to separate those two at one point at an event.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
And
I have, as you know, we have been saying, and I've been saying for a year, that Biden was not going to be the nominee for the Democrats, which has come to pass. I did believe that they were going to install Michelle because she would have been the most obvious choice in my mind as a Democrat. If I were a Democrat, that's who I'd want. Kamala moved very quickly to secure everything, and when we
almost like it was previously thought out and planned,
right? And for a hot second, I was like, well, maybe this isn't going to happen because Obama hasn't endorsed. Everyone else, the Clintons had, and that he did. He and Michelle did.
Of course he did. But he did not want to be seen as the orchestrator of the entire
So that's why
deal.
he waited.
Of course.
Okay. Now,
Because now it's coming out that it was Obama and Nancy Pelosi who went to Biden and said, "You're done.
well, Pelosi
It's over."
Pelosi is the person who, as Republicans, I can say that the Republicans have underestimated Nancy Pelosi
Forever.
more than any other Democrat politician.
Oh, absolutely.
She is by far.
She is the
most-
dragon lady.
She is the most ruthless, smartest, clever, forward-thinking for her power of any woman. I mean, it's amazing. She is. We don't have anyone close
No,
to someone like her in the Republican Party.
not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah. And
Not even remotely close.
And she's said, very forthright this week that Trump not becoming president is her mission.
Yeah.
She is going to make it her mission over the next several months. And so they will do anything they can, including, even if he gets elected, invoking the 14th Amendment and trying to nullify the election. They will do that. They will do
Well, I mean,
anything
Jamie
they can.
Raskin said that.
He said it
on
out
video.
loud. He said it out loud.
Jamie Raskin, for those that don't know, is a Democrat member of Congress from Maryland, was one of the impeachment members. He's on the Judiciary Committee. Apparently a constitutional law professor. Find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
But very, very active and smart Democrat.
Yes.
So when he says something, it's like, ooh, I'm not
That's
gonna,
their
that-
plan. So basically, he's telling
But
the Republicans, your votes are worthless because even if he wins by the smallest of margins, we will never let him become president.
Okay, so I find that.
And we have the votes not only in the Congress, but also probably in the Senate to make it happen.
See, they won't have the votes.
They won't have the votes in the Congress, but in the Senate.
Yeah, but you need both. I mean,
Yeah.
they can't do that alone. It's not unilateral. So I don't see how he does that. So he can say that, and I'm sure he's appeasing the base. I do take what he says seriously. I don't think it's possible. But you had a theory that you need to tell our listeners about because
I do.
It's an
I do.
it's an interesting theory.
If you take the idea that we're being punked, that this is pre-planned. Joe Biden's been non-compos mentis now for 3 years, 4 years. The entire presidency. We constantly ask who's running the White House. Well, Obama's been running the White House. He's been running the White House through surrogates and through Kamala Harris, who answers to him. Okay. And they are reframing her entire candidacy as the second coming of Obama. It's all about joy and happiness and the future and just happy talk. But nothing about policy, nothing about anything they really want to do to and what they've done to the country.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Okay? Nothing. They're avoiding policy completely. They don't want to talk about policy at all because if they talk about policy, they lose. True. They talk about anything they've done to the country, they lose. If they talk about transing the kids or Israel or Ukraine or tax increases or regulatory policy, they lose. So, which makes Waltz that much more interesting of a pick because eventually they're going to have to talk about his policy. That being said, the polling is going to moderate. And then the polling, I think, is going to decline a bit.
So she's on the rise.
Kamala.
You think it's gonna level off?
Going to level off. Then I think
she's
it's going to
start
dip
go down?
because the more and more people see of her, she's still an unlikable character. And if the Trump campaign can be disciplined in message, which is a big if, and if all the surrogates around them, they're running, I think, effective ads showing who she is and who her running mate is. If that starts to resonate with the American public, and then make no mistake, we still have a hot war in Ukraine, and Israel is about to be attacked on all sides. And they are pretty much have come out for that by any stretch of the imagination. And then we still have the Democratic National Convention, which is going to not be this orderly love fest that everybody thinks it is. I just don't think so. I believe maybe late September, maybe October 1st, Joe Biden resigns the presidency. they'll call it health, they'll call it whatever. She ascends, and then the majority of America will not want to unseat her.
So the October surprise.
The October surprise is Joe Biden resigns.
Whoo. That would be. That'd be big.
Read the tea leaves. See what they're doing. It would absolutely clear the slate. She would be Madam President. She would be the first female Black Indian president of the United States. People will not want to vote against her if she's already the president. The biggest obstacle to her becoming president, other than Donald Trump being a complete idiot and fool, which the leading op-ed in the Wall Street Journal basically called him out for that. Don't be stupid, is Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Because as long as Joe Biden remains president, non compos mentis, she's got a problem.
So you think that his resigning, I mean, it clearly shakes up the whole narrative. She's now the incumbent.
She now becomes the incumbent, and the press. I mean, Joe Scarborough. Can you imagine him just falling over himself for the month that is? How wonderful she is.
Well, look, if you're the Trump campaign, you've got to be prepared for
You've
every
got
contingency.
to prepare.
So they should be prepared for this.
But they aren't prepared.
Well,
how could you not? And I'm getting emotional about this, but the more and more I see all this, how could you not see this? Because to your point, it was going to be Obama or Kamala. How could you not see it? And if you didn't see it, something's wrong with you.
Well, and I think we said this last episode. I think that they just wanted to believe it would be Biden so much that they ignored reality and didn't prepare, obviously. Now, as we speak, in a few minutes, so this is Thursday morning, a little bit before 11, 2 o'clock Eastern, Donald Trump's going to be doing a press conference. So in just a few minutes.
And
so by the time you hear this,
guess how many press conferences Joe Biden has done in the last 4 years? How many?
Oh,
3, 4?
something like that.
Something like that? The press loves Trump. That's where he's the best. Because he blows them up.
He gives them clicks. Yep. gives them ratings.
Donald Trump single-handedly saved CNN.
Yeah. So he's going to do a press conference. The spin on this by some is that he is completely frustrated that he's not, that Kamala's getting this love fest, that the attention is on her. He's going to figure out a way to, he can't trust his own campaign to get this done. He's going to take it into his own hands. He's going to do it himself. So I don't think this press conference is going to, I mean, that makes me, you go into a press conference with that kind of a mentality, I think this could be the kind of thing that backfires.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, what's challenging for us is that by the time you hear this, that press conference will have happened. So you will know, and we don't, because we're talking about the future, but you're looking at the past. This is time travel in reverse.
But this is the fear, and this is the understanding that Donald Trump is both his greatest asset and his worst enemy.
Yes,
all at one. And the lead editorial, like I said in the Wall Street Journal, will Donald Trump blow another election? As Kamala Harris rises in the polls, the former president doesn't know how to respond. And is this press conference going to be his way of responding in a way that's productive, that's authentic, and inspires that those 2-3% voters that he needs at the end of the day to come over to his side?
Yeah.
And he needs to get out on the campaign trail.
That was pointed out by somebody that talked about all the different events that Kamala and Tim Walz have going this week, and Trump's going to do one rally in Montana.
Yeah, and he's going to be here tomorrow, I think. Right?
Again?
JD?
Wasn't he here?
Was he here last week? Okay. I'm getting it wrong.
Anyway, the point is that Trump is not busy on the campaign trail.
No.
Let's put it that way.
Do you think that the attempted assassination and the continued attempts to assassinate him, because we just found out about more plots the
Yeah,
other day.
I mean, there's a
that
second
it's got
Iranian plot that
got him a little like,
well,
don't
yeah.
know.
I mean, look.
and we're tied in the polls by all stretch of the imagination. Do I really need to get out there right now? They're going to have their convention. It's going to be
That
they're
may
going to
be.
do their
I mean,
thing, and I don't need to. I can hold my fire right now because really we're not in panic mode.
So why is he doing a press conference today?
Just to cut through the noise.
Oh, maybe
Cut through the
I don't
noise?
know. Well, I mean, like I said,
at least
you
he's-
listeners will know more than we do right now because you'll have heard it.
Listen, at least he's doing a press conference. At least
Yeah,
he's available
well,
to
and
the
maybe,
press.
And maybe that's the point. It's like, hey, it's been 19 days. Kamala's not done it. Look, I'm willing to stand right here.
Well, even JD during his rallies and everything else, he's been meeting with the press.
Yeah. Well, and,
So
and
they're available.
yesterday he walked up to the press because he was.
Oh,
at the
that's
same,
right.
He was in the same city as Kamala, and he's like, "There's the vice president's plane. I hope that's my plane in a few months." But I'm here because I figure you guys are lonely because she won't talk
Which
to you.
was great. That was actually
really
great.
good.
His instincts are good. And we said it on the podcast the other day. I think he's actually redeemed himself on many levels of being the attack dog, which what you need. And I think Tim Waltz is going to be the same. I thought the rally the other day, very articulate. He had some good shots at Trump. He had some good shots at JD.
Yeah.
They kind of ruffled their feathers, which I don't understand because this is politics. It's a contact sport. If you don't like the contact, then you should find another line of work.
But the key is that, and we said this last time, that the Trump campaign and Republicans in general need to stick to what Kamala Harris and Tim Waltz will bring to America.
Wow.
And it will be a disaster.
Absolutely.
Their policies are disastrous. It is the most liberal ticket ever.
Ever. So for Kamala, all you have to do is look at California, what a complete wasteland that is. And those are the policies pursued by Gavin Newsom that she supports 100%. And then the mirror image of that is Minnesota. Minnesota burning.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I mean, he allowed Minneapolis to burn during the BLM riots. Allow them to burn and then slough them off as nothing to see here. Nothing going on.
yeah.
So there's so much to unpack from both of them in terms of what they want to do to the country, what Kamala already has done to the country with Joe Biden, with an open border, with hot wars all over the planet, and with an economy that has not recovered. It's on the precipice. We saw that the other day in the markets. They've recovered somewhat, but we still are in a high tax, high regulatory, high inflation environment.
Yeah.
So Trump campaign, get it together.
They need to.
If you want to win. If you
They
don't
need
want to
to.
win, then we're going to have socialism in America in a much more pronounced way than we do now.
Well, I mean, we'll definitely have an administration that wants to push it. Thankfully, I'm still confident the Republicans will win the Senate, and I have some hope that Republicans will hold the House. So there'll at least be a check on.
Do you think the electorate will buy into this? I want to vote for the first female president, but I'm going to split the vote as a check. They did that with Obama. I mean, you can make that argument,
Well, actually,
especially in
Obama
the second
had
term.
Obama had the House and the Senate for the first 2
and
years.
then the electorate saw what
Right.
he wanted to
Right.
do, and they checked him.
So I just think that the nature of what Senate seats are up, the
math.
presidential election is way less of an issue in Ohio, Montana, and West Virginia. Those are just gonna those will vote Republican no matter what.
So you're
for
thinking
president.
Bernie Moreno wins?
I think
in
he will.
Ohio?
Yeah, I think he will. I think Sherrod Brown is out of touch. He's
Sherrod
out of
Brown
touch.
is running away just as much as Kamala. Apparently, he won't answer a single question.
Well, I mean, he's got a pretty liberal record.
We need to have Bernie Moreno on this show.
Okay.
I met him a couple months ago, and he's quite impressive.
Good. But I think that Montana, West Virginia, Ohio go Republican. That gives us the majority. You know, there might be some surprises in a couple other places.
What about Arizona? What do you think about Arizona?
I think it's an uphill climb.
You do?
I do.
Yeah. What makes you think that?
Well, I just think it's an uphill climb. It's a challenge.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be.
My
opinion.
It shouldn't be as much of a challenge.
I don't know
as
what
it
your
is.
opinion is, but I can guess. But my opinion is that you have a candidate who actually has many of the skills that she needs to win, but she doesn't want to win. She wants to lose.
Well,
Because she likes the celebrity. She's the other side of Kamala Harris. She loves the celebrity.
I mean so I can't imagine that she wants to lose. I think she wants to win.
Just doesn't know how.
Well, I think that
Maybe.
I think that there's everyone approaches politics and campaigns differently. Some do it with thoughtful experience, and some people try to make it up as they go along. Others try to replicate other people's success, and there's just everyone has a different approach, and sometimes an approach doesn't work, and you need to retool that approach. And so if Lake is willing to retool her approach, then I think it's possible. I wouldn't put it in the probable category.
I would say, not calling McCain people, basically deplorables. That would be helpful.
Well, and
I would say also, how do you get, the stalwarts of the party to support a Lake candidacy? The Duceys of the world, the John Kyles of the world, the John Shadeggs of the world, Steve Pierces of the world. All these people who really have been the stalwart building blocks of this party in the state for decades, and yet she seems to ignore it.
Well,
it's unfathomable.
Like I said, I think I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt for some amount of time.
I'm glad you are, because I'm not.
Okay, that's fair.
Maybe she wants to come on sometime and answer some hard questions.
Happy to have her on.
Great.
Yeah,
That'd be
happy to
great.
have her on.
I think we should invite her on.
Okay. So anyway, there will be a
we
check
digress.
if Harris and Walz win, which I have said, and we said this last time. It's Trump's to lose, and unfortunately, I feel like he's doing some things to do that. But if they can pull it together and get back into a disciplined mode and stay on the issues that are going to actually influence swing voters in his direction, because questioning her race is not going to move anybody towards him.
Questioning her gender, her race, any of that, he needs to just steer away from that.
Yeah.
Oh, also attacking other Republicans who want you to win, like he did with Brian Kemp down in Georgia the other day.
That doesn't make any sense.
That has resonated in ways that I didn't think, I thought would actually, but I just could not believe that he did it. And it shows the type of undisciplined, for all intents and purposes, off teleprompter thoughts that go through his head. He's in Georgia. Trump is in Georgia. He starts attacking Brian Kemp, who he needs to win that state, as disloyal, and his wife as disloyal, which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what I don't understand.
Well, it would be like him coming here and attacking a John Kyle, attacking a Doug Ducey. As they still haven't supported my campaign or whatever else, and don't go there.
Well, Brian Kemp has clearly, explicitly supported Trump's
He
campaign.
has endorsed him, and also he has a ground operation there that Trump desperately needs.
Yeah, and Kemp has built a phenomenal operation.
Just in the same way that DeSantis built in Florida.
Yeah,
Just tremendous, and he needs both of them.
yeah. Yeah, no question about that. So
Don't make an enemy out of the good.
yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Oh. I say that. I feel like I say that every week, or
We'll see how that plays out?
We'll see how that plays out. Yeah. Well, of course we will.
I mean, the great thing about the season that we're in, that you and I enjoy regardless, is that every week is different. Every day is different. And yes, Kamala is surging in the polls. I keep having to correct myself.
Yes. Well, let me go back to that. So that,
because actually I've had people text me and laughing at me, like, well, get it right.
It's obviously not just you, but like the president, Trump, it's Kamala or Kamabla. Kamabla is what he's saying.
Yeah, that
Which
not going to work.
What in the world? Why? I mean, it's just it'll make your supporters laugh and whatever, but it makes you look petty.
Yeah.
And
you need to look presidential. You need to rise above the dirt.
Well,
some way.
especially,
and will that happen for him?
I don't know. I mean, especially because she's a woman of color. Period. I mean, deal with it.
Yeah,
That's
so
your
what?
opponent. You can't. You do that, you lose people. Period. You lose people.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, just
Every
I'm
persuadable.
sorry, but that's reality.
Yeah, every persuadable. If you start attacking her race, her gender, anything along those lines, they're gonna wash their hands. Anyone who would be just taking it. I just want to take another look because politically, policy-wise, yes, my life was better under Donald Trump. Yes, the world was safer under Donald Trump. But God, he's such a buffoon. I just can't do it.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, we need to take
those are the people.
Right. We need to take that argument away from them so they can literally say, oh, it was better under Trump. He's talking about how it's going to be better again. I want it to be better, so I'm going to vote for him.
Yeah.
And I can vote for him in the privacy of my voting booth because there's going to be a lot of people, I believe there's going to be a lot of people who say, oh, I could never vote for that guy, who will vote for him.
Well, and that's why you have to that's why I think the polls of Trump against Biden were freaking the left out so much.
Yeah,
because he was up by
leading.
3 points here, 2 points there, but really the internals on that, because you do have a quiet Trump support vote where people, as you just said, which is a great point, will say they're not voting for Trump when they are voting for Trump, or they don't support Trump when they're going to vote for him because of the societal or the emotional, impact that could make, even when they're within their own family structure.
Right.
And
in some ways, more obviously, when they're in their own family structure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they just kind of keep quiet. So the positives for Trump against Biden must have been astronomical. I mean, double those poll numbers. And now I think one of the reasons why he's not freaking out is probably their internals are probably pretty good.
I mean, who knows?
Especially
like
in the swing states.
We'll see how this press conference goes and whether there is a freak out. But going back to your earlier point, they need to be prepared for any contingency.
Anything.
Because if Biden does resign the presidency prior to the election,
bank on it.
That's a game changer. And, I could see that playing very, very positive to Kamala's position.
Incredibly
but it could also
positive.
backfire.
It could, but I don't think it will. And if I were a strategist advising the Democrats, that's precisely what I would advise. That would be my October surprise. Resign the presidency. She gets anointed. No one's going to, then you have a huge swath of the country who want to support that image of the first female African-American Indian president of the United States of America.
Do you realize that the last time that's happened is the vast majority of Americans would not have been old enough to remember if they had even been born. It was when Nixon resigned.
Well, now you're seeing all these articles contending that Nixon should have never resigned. He should have stayed and fought.
I mean, yeah, that's obviously, and if Nixon were around in this day and age, it would be totally different. But the 1970s were a different era.
And going up against John Rhodes and Barry Goldwater, whole different deal.
Well, and you had you had strong Democrat majorities in the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
And they were just going to give him good advice, which was, you're going to be impeached.
Yeah.
And you're going to be convicted.
And thank God for Gerald Ford for pardoning him.
Yeah. I thought that was the right thing to do. He paid for it politically. But we in America have not had this kind of a situation for a very long time.
Yeah.
So that's 50 years. Because that was 1973?
Well, but again, read the tea leaves. Joe Biden is not with us. He's being orchestrated.
Do you really think Jill's going to allow him to resign?
I think she will not allow him to resign unless he pardons the entire family first.
Oh, so you think he pardons everybody
and
then bails?
Which, actually, that to your point, if he does that, that will play against her.
Well, does he leave without pardoning Hunter?
Well, unless he gets assurances from her that she will.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee she wins. So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he could wait until after the election, and if he's not, well, I guess, yeah.
If he doesn't pardon anyone and he just resigns quietly and there's this groundswell of grassroots support
if
for,
she
for
wins
the new
the
Madam
election,
President,
or if she doesn't, she could pardon either way because she's either a lame duck or she's going into her.
So there you go. Yeah, October surprise on the way.
Wow.
That's why I think Republicans need to be very, very careful for what they wish for that are out there saying, oh, well, he's not, if he can't run for the presidency, he shouldn't be president. It's like, well,
but
you and I have
said this.
Do you want to win?
You and I have said this.
Do you want to win the election?
You and I have said that if he can't run for presidency, he should.
I know, but looking at it now, with everything that's happened,
So now you're
hindsight's
changing
everything.
your tune.
No, I am saying that because he's decided to stay, there's going to be a surprise, and because he really isn't running the country, and we all know that.
Yeah.
Obama is running the country.
Ooh.
Obama and his brown shirts are running the country.
Heavy stuff, man.
Yeah.
Can we go to something lighter?
We can go to something like, I'm sorry to be such a Debbie Downer, but this is just...
I don't know if this is
This
lighter
is
or
not America.
Well, okay. So
Okay, we're going to switch gears.
we're going to switch gears.
Something real. Here's something you...
America. F yeah. So the Olympics have been rocking.
Yeah, we're ahead in the medal count.
By a long shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I have not been this excited about the Olympics. I don't know. I'm trying to think. In 1980 when the U.S. beat the Soviets in hockey, I mean, you can't. There's nothing. You can't top that.
I mean, that really dates us. We were both alive. I was watching that. I remember where I was.
Yeah, I mean,
we were over at a friend's house.
I was watching
the whole
with my
thing
parents.
on this little tiny
Yeah,
TV.
I mean, and I mean, it was earth shattering because the Red Scare and all. I mean, it was that was unbelievable. So there's nothing that can top that. But this Olympics has had some fantastic surprises, some fantastic, stories. We've had great things happen. The only thing that could be better for me is and I don't think I've talked about this on the show, but my niece, Kennedy Noble, was a contender to come go to the Olympics in swimming.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
She
Congratulations.
is a backstroker. She's a North Carolina State. And she finished third in the Olympic trials in the 100-meter backstroke.
Oh, wow.
So she missed it by tiny, because they take the top two of every race, right? So she barely missed. She came in fourth in the 200-meter. Her time off of the second place winner in the 400 was closer than her time as the third place of the 100. 200 is her best, typically her best race. So but she's young, so she'll be around. So I'm looking forward to seeing her in the Olympics in LA in
LA is
in 4 years.
Amazing.
That'll be fun.
They're going to have to do a lot more to clean up the city.
Yeah. So, but this has been an amazing Olympics to watch. There's still a little bit left to go. And I have been very proud of our American athletes. I was not a huge fan of the opening ceremony. Well, a portion of the opening ceremony.
Yes.
A lot of it was actually really cool. The Marie Antoinette thing with the heavy metal band, pretty cool.
That was with Lady Gaga.
Well, Lady Gaga's piece was a little bit.
That was weird.
Yeah.
And then
no, there's a
Celine
heavy
was
metal.
there
There's
too.
a
I
heavy
didn't
metal
watch those.
band. I didn't watch that one. Heavy metal band that the Marie Antoinette with her head off. And a whole bunch of them in the windows. That was kind of cool.
The best way to sum up, and I think you said this last week, the opening ceremony is very French.
Yeah, very French.
Very French. And it's why we both love and hate the French.
Yes. So for the people who say, I'm outraged by the opening ceremonies, I am not watching the Olympics, that is a very short-sighted view, because our U.S. Olympians had nothing to do with that opening ceremony. So to punish them by saying, I'm not going to celebrate your hard work and your ability to get to the Olympics is just, that's cutting off your nose to spite your face. I mean, it's ridiculous. So
that's true.
The French, I mean, look, you put the Olympics in Paris, you're going to have something weird. I mean, it's Paris.
And that's no doubt about that.
That's the way it is. Okay. Now, there's been controversy with the women's boxing.
Just slightly.
And what I have been,
2 dudes are in the medal round.
so let's be nuanced about this, because there is
we
nuance.
don't need to be.
No,
nuanced.
there is nuance. There is
well,
nuance.
there is nuance, but we don't need to be nuanced.
No. But I want to be clear about where I come down on this, because I am not a fan of men and women's sports.
Good,
shocking, right?
Great.
But
then we agree. On
yes,
that.
and
keep
at the
men
end of the day,
out of women's sports.
At the end of the day,
as fathers of daughters,
it would have been a wiser decision, I think, to not have these 2 boxers competing in the women's boxing. But I don't blame them. I don't think this was a cheat. They're not trans. These are both individuals who, and I'm going to forget the term, why am I forgetting the term? Anyway, they were born with, I think it's DSD. Is that the
yes? I mean, there's a question.
Disorder,
Do the fighters have
disorders
DSD?
of sex
differences
development.
of sex development?
Yeah, and so
or intersex.
They were believed to be girls when they were born, and then went through male puberty. And so as a result, the World Boxing Federation had done some tests, 2022, 2023. They were disqualified from fighting in 2023. Those test results were sent to the IOC. Now there was a conflict.
And the IOC is like, well, those tests are not done properly.
Well, maybe, but
either way, they have XY chromosomes.
They have XY chromosomes.
They're men,
and but again,
and they have testosterone.
Yeah, testosterone. They are biologically male.
They're breaking noses and faces,
but they're not trans, because they're not. I mean, that's because this is a disordered thing that they were raised as girls. Now, what I want to be clear about is that I don't think they should have been boxing into women's sports, but I also think we have to have a little bit of compassion for someone who has worked their whole life thinking that they're one way and then having that being taken away. Now, I get it. It's not fair, but we have to, they're never going to be able to box again, because they're certainly not going to be able to box.
Well, they're obviously going to win the medals.
If they haven't already. I mean,
who knows?
That. But
it's the whole thing is outrageous.
But the IOC needs to get.
But what I'm happy about it shines the light on men, the difference between men and women in sports.
Well, and
this idea, like Will Thomas, I'm not going to call him Leah, should be allowed to swim against Riley Gaines in a competitive competition. It's lunacy.
But here's my point. The fact that they did not allow that to happen in the Olympics, because the swimming federation, whatever, the International Swimming Federation, put some rules. Track and field did the same thing.
Yep.
And so that has not been
the controversies between the boxing federation and the IOC.
This is an IOC boxing federation problem, which these 2 individuals have been caught up in. They didn't, I'm not going to call them, they're not trans, and I'm not going to say they cheated, because they followed the rules.
But they are male.
But they are men who should not be
fighting.
I I feel badly. I mean, I can't imagine. Can you? I mean, think about, puberty's already an issue, right? But if you're growing up as a girl and you're expecting at some point to get your period, and that doesn't happen, but your voice drops, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're a boy.
Yeah. So and
That's
and you know that, and you're still competing competitively in female sports. You shouldn't be allowed, number one. Number two, it's the worst type of misogyny, I think, to allow a male to compete against a female, especially in a contact sport like boxing.
Yeah, I mean,
It is. The left loves to talk about misogyny and sexism and all this stuff. This is like the epitome.
Well, and it's so
like the purest example of that. They should never have been allowed to compete.
But it's
regardless of how much sympathy you could have, the way they were raised or the other mistakes they were made. Their parents didn't wake up one day and go, "Oh, he likes playing with dolls. I think he's a girl," and transition him. And the craziness that has happened in this country and other countries.
right.
This was something different. They were intersex. They were raised as girls, and then their hormones kicked in.
Right.
I get that. Sad deal. Should still not be competing.
Well, and so that's the bottom line is they shouldn't, and the IOC is going to have to get this figured out prior to the next Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the IOC will allow this to happen again.
Probably not. I think that that probably won't. Too much controversy.
On a better note, even though, away from boxing, did you know that men's and women's lacrosse is going to be in the next Olympics?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I guess I have no opinion about that.
You have no opinion about that?
I don't even know what lacrosse is.
You don't even know what lacrosse is?
I don't know.
None of your kids play lacrosse?
Is field hockey?
No.
Lacrosse? Is that?
Field hockey is in the Olympics. I can't believe that. And lacrosse is one of the oldest sports in the world.
What?
Yes. It's the original North American game.
What?
Played for centuries by our own Native American tribes.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I had no idea.
And has been showcased in the Olympics, but never in the Olympics.
Okay, well, good for the lacrosse people.
Anyway, I wanted to interject on that because as a former lacrosse player,
you played lacrosse?
I did. I played attack and midi.
I don't know what that means, but good for you.
So I was really blessed that I went to a school that had an intramural lacrosse program. We had four teams, and we beat the crap out of each other.
Why didn't you play a real sport like baseball?
Our buddy John Desser and I played lacrosse together, and our kids have played lacrosse.
All right, well, I'm sorry for all the lacrosse fans. I'm offending you right now because I don't give a shit.
Hey, listen, I'm glad rugby's in the Olympics now. That took forever.
Well, there's
rugby, a lot of my point
rugby's
is
not even as old as the Olympics.
But my point is, there's a lot of sports when you look at the Olympics that you're like, what? Like field hockey.
I mean, breakdancing.
Table tennis. Table tennis. Like,
well, I mean, that's
and then
fun to
and
watch.
then other sports that have been around for literally played across the globe for decades and decades, if not centuries, aren't like rugby and lacrosse.
Yeah. Well, but the rugby's not been around for centuries.
Rugby's been around for over 100 years.
I think it's just under 100 years.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it is over 100 years.
Yeah.
It's not 200, yeah.
Okay.
But
so,
not as long
so
as
we
the
can
Olympics.
we can concede the fact that lacrosse has been around a lot longer.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that. So good. Now, going back to the women and men sports issue, one of the things that my wife pointed out, I found this very interesting, is that in part the media and popular culture is to blame for a little bit of this, in the sense that there are probably some women, based on what they see in movies and TV shows, that think, oh, I'm just a little bit less. If I trained a little bit more, I could be as good as a man. And I'll give you an example. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, little 5'2" girl beating the crap out of, big, bulky men. All these types of things, like, well, that we have created a situation which there is an expectation that they're just a little bit less. And in some ways, they're significantly different, right? And I have one personal experience I'll share. And Alyssa, apparently I've shared this a lot. She drives her crazy when I say it. So when I worked for Shattuck, we had a district staffer named Yasmin, and she was a very small person. She's a short, and just cute as button. It's probably not the right way to say it because she was very small. She was like 5 feet tall, right? Yeah. And one day we're just chatting, and she's quite a bit younger than me, and she's like, "Oh, I'm pretty fast. I think I could beat you in a 50-yard dash." I was like, "You couldn't beat me in a 50-yard dash." She's like, "Oh, absolutely. I know I could. Yeah, I'm very fast." I was like, and she was so convinced that she could beat me in a 50-yard dash that I began to doubt whether I could actually beat her in a 50-yard dash.
I mean,
I was
confidence is a beautiful
confident.
thing.
She had me rethinking. Well, could she really beat me? I mean, is it possible? And I wasn't in the greatest shape at that point. I was a little overweight.
I remember those days with you.
Yeah, I was a little chunky. And so I was like, "Oh, okay." And then finally it's like, "You know what? No, we're going to have us race because we need to set I don't want to think about this anymore. I can't imagine." So she brings her running shoes that day. I don't think I had my running shoes. I think I had
flip-flops.
No, I didn't have flip-flops, but just
your Gucci slippers?
Not slippers. Just street shoes for
Uggs.
Not Uggs. But we go to the parking lot next door, which is huge, and our staffer Bruce Radin's down at the walks off 50 yards and puts his hand up and go. And I start running like crazy because I'm like, I don't want her to beat me. And I get to the finish line and I turn around and she's barely halfway. Okay. I blew her out of the water. And I was like, oh, why did I ever have any doubts?
Well, here's when boys and girls are young, like before they hit puberty, the physical differences are kind of interchangeable.
Right.
But once puberty hits, it all goes off the rails. And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And that's what and that's science. And that's biology. And to hear people try to debate that back and forth, like you can choose, is just complete lunacy. You can't choose. You can't make a cat a dog, or vice versa. It just doesn't work.
Right.
And so in sports, there are demonstrable differences.
Yeah.
And because of that factor,
and
testosterone and estrogen,
just the same as you would
only and those factors are incontrovertible.
Right. It is what it is.
Yeah. And so hopefully this will work itself out. But the outrage is palpable because those women, and I commend the women for going into the ring. I don't think they should have. I think they should have just said, "I'm not doing this."
Well, but at the same time,
but they did.
They also didn't know for sure. I mean, there's just I look. I'm not going to pass judgment on any of that stuff because we don't know what they knew or thought or believed. I mean, who knows if it's been kind of talked about in the boxing world? I don't know, but it does. I just feel like these two women were attacked in ways that were unfair because they weren't trying to this wasn't a Leah Thomas issue. This wasn't a guy who had been on the swimming team and decided, I'm not good enough. But
I guess I disagree with you on that because they had already been sanctioned by the Boxing Federation. They'd already been they were allowed to appeal. They refused to appeal. The Boxing Federation said they would actually pay for that appeal. They knew what they were doing. They were. I don't feel a lot of sympathy for them at all. I just don't. Not at this point.
That's fine. But I think that they met the IOC qualifications.
Yeah, the IOC qualifications are BS.
Well, maybe they are, and
they're men, and they shouldn't be competing.
I don't disagree, but I'm not
how they were raised and everything else. That's unfortunate, but they're men, and it's a travesty.
Well, and I think the whole, like I said, they're human beings that I feel for, and I hope they figure out, something to do besides boxing that gives them fulfillment, because they're not going to be able to legitimately box.
Well, maybe track and field or something.
Maybe, probably not sports.
All right. Well, it's going to be an interesting week with the closing of the Olympics, and then
Well, we'll see how the closing ceremonies go compared to the
who
opening.
knows? and then we've got
Don't hold your
we've
breath.
got the Democratic National Convention happening in
August is
week-
just getting going.
August 19th.
Yep.
So a week from Monday.
Yeah.
We'll see how many Genocide Joe protesters there are
Right.
everywhere.
Right.
It's gonna be something else. Oh, I saw that a pro-Israel group applied for a permit to march in Chicago and were denied. But like 4 or 5 pro-Palestinian groups were afforded permits.
Really?
And I'm like, that is a recipe for disaster.
That's going to be interesting.
That is not going to go well.
That will be interesting.
So,
All right. Well,
we'll talk more about that later.
and one last note. Happy birthday, Alyssa.
Oh, happy birthday, Alyssa.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
God
for listening.
bless. Take care.